Hello, my name is Ferric. Today, we will be talking about how to set up the software necessary to participate in, or to host, a Link to the Past multi-world randomizer. In the first half of the video, I'll focus on how to participate in a multi-world game. The second half will focus on how to host a game. Before we begin, there are two pieces of software that you will need. Both are linked in the video description. The first is SNES 9X Multitroid, which you can find on its Google Drive. You'll want version 1.6, Win32. The second thing you'll need is Berserker's Multiworld Utilities. This can be found on his GitHub in the releases page. Currently, it's at version 2.5.0, but you'll always want the most recent edition. Scroll down to where it says Assets, and click on setup.berserkermultiworld.exe. If you would like to play the Doors version instead, download the Doors version. Both of these have been downloaded to the desktop, and I've extracted SNES 9X Multitroid here. Next, you want to install Berserker's Multiworld Utilities. During the course of the installation, you'll be asked to browse for a ROM file. This is asking for your Japanese 1.0 ROM file of Link to the Past. It's probably named Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce (Japan.sfc). You will have obtained this file by legally dumping it from a cartridge that you physically own. So once you've found that file, click Open and say Next. Use an installation directory, and unless you've selected a custom directory, I recommend creating a desktop shortcut, because we will need to access these files later. During the course of the installation, you may be prompted to install Microsoft Visual C++. If you are not prompted, it probably means that you already have that software, as it was likely installed by a game that came with Steam or some other application. Two icons will be created on your desktop. Here, you'll see the link to the client, which you'll use to play the game. And this is the folder that leads to the installation directory, where all those files we just installed were placed. Once the utilities are installed, you'll want to set SNES 9X Multitroid as the default program to open when you double-click on a ROM file. To do this, find a ROM file, right-click on it, and select Open With. If no default application is already selected, you may just need to click Open. In any case, a box looking like this should show up. Make sure to check the box for Always Use This App to Open .sfc files. You may notice that SNES 9X or another emulator is already suggested to use as an app. However, you don't want to use this as it is likely not the version of Multitroid that we need to use. So click on More Apps and scroll all the way to the bottom to find an option labeled Look for another app on this PC. Here, click on Browse and find where you installed your SNES 9X Multitroid 2, or where you extracted that file. Open that folder and find SNES9X.exe and click Open. The emulator will launch using the same ROM file that you had right-clicked on earlier. You'll notice that the icon next to your ROM file has changed to a SNES9X icon. This indicates that SFC files have been successfully associated with SNES9X, and double-clicking on one or executing one will automatically launch that file using SNES9X Multitroid. The next thing to do is to configure your YAML file. This can be found inside of the installation directory within the Players folder and is called easy.yaml. So go ahead and open that file, which you can do with Notepad, Notepad++, or any programming IDE. And know that a YAML file is just a set of configuration options to allow you to play a multi-world game how you would like to, and still allow other people to play how they would like to. For example, if you want to play a Key Sanity, but your friend just wants to play an item randomizer, and somebody else in your group wants to turn on Boss Shuffle, you can all play the multi-world experience you would like, and still participate in the multi-world together. This YAML file just describes what your experience will be like. You should set your name in this file And if you intend to make multiple files for different purposes, I recommend setting a description as well. Near the top of the file, you'll notice that there is an example of a map shuffle option. This is intended to illustrate that this is a weighted file. When the generator goes through each YAML file and creates your game, it looks at each of these options and acts as if it were a bucket. In the provided example, there are 5 pieces of paper in that bucket that say to turn on map shuffle, and there are 15 pieces of paper that say to turn off map shuffle. As the generator goes through each option, it just reaches into each option's bucket and pulls out 1 piece of paper at random. In this case, you'll see that turning off map shuffle is significantly more likely than to turn it on. As you scroll through this file, you'll see that there are many options which just have 1s and 0s associated with them. These are all weighted options, but it's a simple method of describing what you would always like if there are only 2 options available. So, for example, in local keys, it will always be turned off. Near the bottom of the file, you'll see that there are ROM options. If you would like to play as a non-standard sprite, simply add another line and weight that sprite appropriately. And the weighting I've just given, there are 5 options for Vegeta and 1 option for Link. So 5 out of 6 times, I'm going to play as Vegeta. Other ROM options are also present here. Quick swap, menu speed, heart color, heart beep, and overworld palettes broken out into overworld and underworld. And all of these are weighted as well. So if you would like to not be quite sure what color of heart you're going to get when you play, set them all to a weighting of 1, and 1 of them will be chosen at random. Save your changes to that file, and then rename it to something that is useful to you and your friends. I recommend your name, as it's the most identifying thing about you. Once your YAML file is configured, you're almost ready to play a game. Now you just need somebody to host and a group to play with. Once you've found that, give your YAML file to whoever is generating the game or whoever is setting up the generation on Berserker's website. Once that's been done, you'll be given a patch file. You might be given a link to a patch file from the website, which you could find something like this, where each player will have their name as a link and you can click on your name to download your patch file. If somebody generated the game without using the website, you might instead be given a zip file which contains everyone's patch file. In order to start playing, go ahead and double click on that patch file. You'll notice that a couple things happen. First, the emulator starts automatically because we assigned it as the default program earlier. You'll also notice that a ROM has been created on your desktop, and this has been generated using the original ROM file that you provided during the installation progress in conjunction with that patch file that we just received. Putting those together, we spit out the ROM that we're going to use to play this game. You'll also notice that a command line window pops up, which you can use as the client for the game if you would like. However, there is also, and this will automatically open, as the Multiworld web UI. You'll notice that nothing is connected just yet, but it will be soon. In order to begin playing, we need to make sure that QUSB to SNES is running. Here you'll see that an icon in the system tray indicates that it is, and it should launch automatically when you open your ROM file from the patch. So, you'll need to go into your SNES9X Multitroid and click on File, hover on Lua Scripting, and click New Lua Script window. This will open a box for Lua Script. You'll want to browse for a new Lua Script file, and you're going to use the one that's inside of your SNES9X Multitroid directory. It's inside of a folder called Lua, and you want multibridge.lua. Once this occurs, you'll notice that a name has been assigned to you. The name isn't important, but you'll notice that it does appear inside of the web UI up here. If you would like to use EmoTracker or Autotracking, EmoTracker does have support for Multiworld. So here we'll simply launch EmoTracker, and you want to right-click on the small robot face that's present, hover on SNES, and click on Lua. The robot face will turn yellow, indicating that it is awaiting a connection from a Lua script. You'll then want to go back to your emulator, hover on File, and open another new Lua script window. This time, you'll want to browse for a different Lua file, which is inside of EmoTracker's installation directory. Click on Browse. Locate EmoTracker's installation directory. For me, is in the D drive. In Program Files, it's called EmoTracker. You'll want to go into the Connectors folder, into the SNES 9X folder, and finally you'll want connector.lua. You'll see here that a connection has been established, and the robot face turns green, indicating that a connection has been established. You'll notice on the web UI that the status may say not connected. If this is the case, it means that the address to connect to the multi-server did not properly come through the patch file. This can happen if somebody generates the file without using the website or for a variety of other reasons. Typically, this will automatically connect. If you need to find the link to the actual server to connect to, simply ask whoever hosted the game and they will provide it to you. In this case, we're using Berserker multi.world. You'll see that we have connected. There are a lot of cool features on the web UI, including resizing and information being provided about the game state. You can also type notes here, and these will be saved when you close and reopen the client in case you're doing something like the async, where you'll want to play it over a course of time. But when both of these say connected, you're ready to start playing. So go ahead and grab your emulator, push start, put in a name, and wait for a countdown. Good luck. If you would like to host a multi-world game, the recommended method for doing this now is actually just to use the website. So, if you intend to be hosting a game, what you should do is collect a folder of YAML files from your players. Collect all these files. And then what you'll want to do is add them to a zip file. We just call it players.zip and it will contain our YAML files. Then, you'll want to visit berserkermulti.world. There are a lot of interesting options here, but the one that we're concerned with is to start a new game. So, we want to click on Start a New Game. Click on Upload, and browse to that zip file that you just created, and click Open. After a brief moment while the server generates the game, you'll be redirected to a seed info page, where you can create a new room, and you can send this link to your players, where they will see their ability to download those patch files. Additionally, the spoiler log can be downloaded from this page as well. You'll then want to click on Create a New Room. This page is the server information that you can see a log of what is currently happening on the server, as well as patch files for all of your players. Here there's also a link to the tracker, as well as an IP address to give to your players if for whatever reason the address for the server does not go through automatically. Feel free to give the tracker address to your players. If this looks a little small, don't worry, it expands automatically as your window gets bigger. or shrinks if you just don't have a lot of screen space. And that's it. The players can now connect to your server, and you can all play a multi-world together. So good luck. And remember, don't forget about Gina.